Bonjour tout le monde. It's the end of my first year on YouTube, and if I picked up on anything in these months of gradually learning how to make somewhat competent videos, it's that you guys like it when I talk about Fire Emblem, and you really like it when I make prediction videos for banners in Fire Emblem Heroes. My track record after my first one isn't so hot, but I got the game and one character right, so I wasn't completely off base. And because of that, to close out 2021 and look ahead toward what Heroes has in store for us in 2022, I'm taking that mostly unearned confidence and going big with it. I'm going to use my skills at pattern recognition and unnecessarily thorough knowledge of Fire Emblem to predict every single new Heroes banner of the rest of Book 6, except the Fallen banner and Choose Your Legends, because the former is a glorified special banner meaning all bets are off, and the latter is decided by bots made by guys on Reddit, apparently. I'm not going to attempt to make an exact timeline for these banners, although for some of them we can make broad guesses about where in the year they may fall based on patterns in the last two books. Going with that, let me start by picking out banners that I think are likely for the first half of the year, up through June. Assuming another Fallen banner in May or thereabouts, that's 5 sets of new heroes to predict. First, let's talk about Binding Blade. FE6 got this year's Bridal banner with 3 completely new additions, but it hasn't had a dedicated new Heroes banner since the end of Book 4. Pickings for likely new characters from this game are fairly slim, so I'm forced to predict based on existing associations. There's Astolfo for his history with Igraine, Elfin as the plot-significant bard counterpart to Larum, Ellen as Guinevere's servant, and Dorothy as Saul's put-upon bodyguard. No big draws here, even if I'll enjoy having Elfin because of his whole thing with his knight Percival. So I can see this being a banner that includes a Heroes original for extra spice, either an ascended form or someone from Book 6's plot. This would relegate one of the characters I mentioned to one of the alternative methods of adding new units. You know, like adding them to the 3 or 4-star pool, or making them quest rewards. I consider those units to be part of their associated banners even if you don't spend orbs to get them. Also, while we're on the Alebian games, I'm going to predict that Blazing Blade will not get a new Heroes banner this year, making Book 6 the inverse of Book 5 where, as mentioned, FE6 got a special banner while FE7 got a regular one. I'll leave speculation on the Blazing Blade special banner to you. Little kid versions of the Lord Trio, possibly? Moving on, while just about everyone is sick of Heroes overloading on 3 houses units, FE16 is still the most current game, and Intelligent Systems has yet to so much as tease a new game in development. As such, it would not surprise me in the slightest if Book 6 had not 1 but 2 3 houses banners, just like the last 3 books. Previously, I'd noted that there just aren't that many bankable units left from that game without dipping into post-timeskip versions of the students. But then I realized that 3 Houses stands out from the other games in having an unusually high number of characters with special alts but no regular versions. Rectifying that issue seems like a safer move than resorting to post-timeskip banners, at least for the time being, so let's go with that. Now, while none of the various regular student-focused banners in the past have stuck exclusively to one house, all of them have leaned slightly toward either the Eagles or Lions. Let's say then that 2022 is the year of the deer, with Leonie as the only female member of her house to not yet have a regular version, as well as Lawrence as the most high-profile of the 3 remaining guys. Then Dorothea for more of that essential waifu factor and as the last of the regular Eagles, and Felix to give the Lions a place on the banner and loosely theme it around contrarian number 3s. There'll probably be a wildcard 5th slot which could go to one of several still missing students, with the biggest draw of that set probably being Sylvain. I know Sylvain has some popular ships in transformative fandom, but does anyone care about him much outside of that? It's hard to tell. Alright, let's talk Yggdrasil. 2021 was very kind to fans of this setting, giving each of its 2 games a new Heroes banner and creating a special banner concept around even more of its units. As much as I love Yggdrasil myself, I don't see that kindness being repeated unless we got a remake announcement, which would be awesome. But outside of that, the relative obscurity of these games and the lack of strong new additions make 2 Yggdrasil banners a tough sell. There will at least be 1 for Genealogy of the Holy War, specifically for its 2nd generation since Book 5 pulled from the 1st generation for its new heroes. There's still some solid picks to be had there, like Pegasus Knight Fee, freewheeling thief Patty, and potentially overpowered mage Arthur, who's also an estranged member of the popular House Frege, in case you couldn't tell by the hair. I'd toss Oife in there as a fourth character, as Selif's other surrogate father with Shannon. As happy as I'd be to see my fave Diarmid in Heroes, I'm guessing that if he does ever show up, he'll be tied to a Thracian banner like his sister. The understated drama of who his father is gets a bit closer to having a definite answer in that game. But actually, you know what? I do think there'll be a Thracia banner as well this year, even if Diarmid's not featured. I'm calling his half-brother Fergus, Fergus's cellmate and Pegasus Knight Corinne, early game healer Safi, and the scummy thief Liphis, who surprised me by showing up on this year's pirate banner. I wouldn't have think he'd have been popular enough, but with this quartet, the writing could do a fair bit with nodding toward FE5's small-scale ethical complexities in contrast to the grand epic of FE4 and its holy-blooded noble houses fighting continental wars over who gets to be in charge. Is that thinking a little too deep for Heroes banners, though? At least I can't be accused of following my biases here. Last for this section is Sacred Stones. The intro banner to Book 5 came from FE8, and since then, Magvel has gotten a good bit of love in special banners, including just this month, in addition to a Choose Your Legends winner. Even so, that's a long time to go between new Heroes banners, so I can see another one for FE8 later on in the coming spring. It still amazes me that the game's Pegasus sisters are still not in Heroes, so I'm going to say Vanessa and Cyrene along with Mulder and Gilliam to make it a full Freljin affair. The last banner was Grotto-themed, so that seems consistent. Now looking at the second half of the year, there's just 4 slots to predict outside of Choose Your Legends and the presumable start of Book 7 a year from now. I'll go ahead and start by saying that we're likely to get banners representing Arcanea, Radiant Dawn, and Fates, along with, yes, a second Three Houses banner. I already mentioned that this would leave Blazing Blade out of Book 6 entirely and why that's likely to happen, but it'll also leave out Echoes. FE15 formed the midpoint of Book 5, but unless IS wants to surprise us with the Cypher DLC units from that game, the only real draw left in its roster is Valentian Est. Given IS's love of the White Wings, it's inevitable that Est will get her Valentian version eventually, and that she'll be headlining a chapter when she does, but I don't see it happening in 2022. On to the specifics. Before October, if you'd asked me to name some Arcanean characters that were overdue for a Heroes appearance, I could give you a few reasonable choices, like Nina, Ellis, and pre-corruption Harden. But then the Coyotes Men banner happened, so who the hell knows what IS is thinking when it comes to this setting anymore. Now I choose to lean into the chaos, and predict that the next Arcanean banner will feature this assortment of prisoners that you rescue in Chapter 5 of Shadow Dragon, all of whom are aligned with Arcanea, the country, that is, not the whole continent. Medea, Boa, Dolph, Maslin, and Tomas together make for a marginally less bizarre banner than the Coyotes Men too, in that they have more class diversity and some of them have ties to pre-existing characters and/or plot relevance. Watch IS troll us by making the interchangeable palette swap armors easy quest rewards or something, while their slightly more interesting cohorts get stuck on the banner proper with an Ascended hero. When it comes to the Tellius duology, it's often difficult to distinguish between the two games' rosters, but all the same, there hasn't been a new Heroes banner drawing exclusively from FE10 since Book 2. Early Book 3 loaded up on Lagu's units to fill in the then newly added Beast weapon type, but most of those characters are playable in Path of Radiance even if the Heroes catalog sorts them under the sequel. We're long overdue for another Radiant Dawn banner, and because just last month FE9 got its time in the limelight, it's only fitting that Book 6 makes that happen. The no-brainer option for a banner here is the rest of the Dawn Brigade: Edward, Leonardo, Nolan, and Laura, although one of the guys will probably get booted off into side content to make room for a Heroes character. Again, essential waifu factor. As for Fates, it's another one of those games that's pretty tapped out for new units, although it still has one fairly large pool remaining in its second generation. We last got a new Heroes banner for FE14 over the summer, so I don't see there being another until late in 2022. When it appears, the obvious choices are Sophie, Kaldorai, and Mitama to finish off the second-gen girls, and probably Kiragi as the last of the 4 princes. If there's a fifth character involved somewhere, it'll likely be a Norian to balance things out. So let's say Percy? He's got some goofy potential meme energy going for him. Let's just hope he gets better art than his father, though. Finally, we return to Three Houses. Frustrating as it may be, books 3 through 5 provide a consistent template for how FE16's new banners tend to go. Each year since 2019, we've gotten one banner focused on regular student characters, and another focused on something else. Whether that's Byleth and the House Leaders to coincide with the game's release, or a set of church characters in 2020, or the Ashen Wolves this past September. Of those three options, only the church has any characters left for new banners, and prior to the latest holiday banner, I thought Manuela was a shoo-in as a headliner as she's the only playable female Three Houses character who's not in Heroes yet. But that's not the case anymore. And as much as I love her, I don't think Manuela is popular enough to show up on 2 banners in the space of a single book. Instead, how about Reya? Although she's technically an NPC, Reya has so much story presence in Three Houses that it amazes me that more than 2 years later she has no regular version in Heroes. It's almost as though IS is holding her in reserve for a slower month where they don't have an ascended hero or anything else big lined up for the new Heroes banner. So, make a church banner with her, Hanneman, Cyril, and Alois. This setup even leaves room for a Heroes OC if one is needed, but she'd probably be someone like Niffle without a ton of obvious demand. Either way, it was pointed out back when Gatekeeper was released that his attack animation includes sprites of all of these characters and more. Basically everyone from FE16 who's not in the game yet, except Gilbert, who will go on to replace Ignatz as the mimetic loser of this roster. Poor guy. Alright then, so there you have it, my full list of predictions for new Heroes banners in Book 6, or at least the ones that play by the usual rules. Do I really think that all of these will come true? Of course not, although I'd be very surprised if nothing in this video made an appearance in the coming year. I wouldn't say that Heroes is running on fumes when it comes to new units, but without an FE17 announcement on the horizon, IS is probably looking at no more than another year or two of fresh picks. I'm coming up on the end of my first year of actually playing Heroes, and while I have my issues with its other aspects, I remain fascinated in what it does and doesn't pull from the mainline games. Filling up the catalog is enough motivation to keep me playing at least, even if I haven't spent anything on Heroes and don't intend to anytime soon. If IS wants my money, they can announce a Genealogy remake already, preferably with lots of Echoes and Three Houses style gay subtext built off what's present in the original. I'd love to be covering that on this channel. Like the video and subscribe to my channel if you're interested in seeing me dabble in occasional Heroes and other Fire Emblem content, and to keep up with me throughout the year to see how many of my predictions were accurate, because of course I'll be keeping track. Now, I'm sure you have your own predictions, and like me and everyone else you've got your wishful thinking for special banners and legendaries and so forth as well. Talk to me about those in the comments. What do you want to see in Book 6? Au revoir!